Concious Kōrero episode 2. Just waiting for Mum to stream in. We've had a few technical glitches, but we are getting to the bottom of them and going to be bringing you this live kōrero, this live discussion about healing, well-being, self-care, self-love, and what it takes to create the person that you desire, to fulfill your dreams, to express yourself with honesty and truth. So I'm just waiting for Mum to join the live, and then we'll get into the discussion.
Hi, Wes. Finally.
We're live.
Yay.
Welcome. We got there.
Thank you, Wes. Yeah, that's right. Persistence pays off, doesn't it?
Persistence does pay off, and thank you so much for Mum for taking this opportunity to speak with me live tonight. So I'd just like to give you a warm welcome.
Thank you, Wes.
To Concious Kōrero episode 2. And just to refresh viewers on Concious Kōrero, what that is it's an opportunity for some honest and open discussion around the topics of healing, self-care, sobriety, recovery, all those sorts of things. And tonight we're going to be delving into what some of those mean for you tonight, Mum.
Yeah, it sounds exciting. Thanks, Wes, for the opportunity.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I'd also like to acknowledge the healing we've done together. You've been a great supporter of mine since I was born. So I want to acknowledge that. Thank you so much, Mum, and guiding me through some challenging times in my life. And I've also had the opportunity to support you as an adult son as well. So that's been amazing.
Thank you, Wes. Yeah, it's been my pleasure. So, well, I love that I was able to, you made me into a mum for the second time. So I was able to nurture you from birth and be nurtured from you when you were an adult as well. So it's a win-win, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is a win-win. And I'd like to, let's start this off. I'd like you to just give us a bit of an overview of your childhood, where you grew up, and, you know, just to give people a bit of, a bit of context, I guess, for how your life developed. I mean, we're not going to sit down and unpack everything, but I think some things that may be of significance to you to lay a platform to go deeper into this discussion tonight.
Thanks, Wes. Well, I was born in Pupu in the country, and my mum and dad, when I was born, my mum and dad were living on a farm, which was my dad's parents' farm, and Dad, and I was a twin. I'm a twin, not was a twin. I am a twin, and I'm the youngest. So my brother and I were the youngest of the family of 4. So I had a sister that was 8 years older than me. I have a sister that's 8 years older than me, and a sister that's 3 years older than me. So I was kind of lucky because I had, you know, some older siblings to look after me as well. But my dad was, well, I'd have to say probably, you know, all the good things was that I was brought up on a farm. My mum was an exceptionally good mum. She had Swiss parents who came out from Switzerland, and they went to live in Aria because her dad was a butcher. So Mum was very skillful, and her mother was actually a silk weaver and a healer. So Mum was very resilient and resourceful. So she was able to be a very capable mum under very challenging circumstances. Like, there was a lot of money struggles in my childhood. Dad went to the Second World War, so he came back. You know, there was a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder. So, you know, with that being said, I grew up actually very insecure, very, very insecure, and it affected my life in a way that I always doubted myself, you know, and it was very painful to, you know, not be able to believe in who I was or feel good in my own skin. And so that whole way that I was brought up, that how it affected me, it led me to a lot of in-depth searching and seeking for the answer,
Yeah.
And so, I think by nature I'm pretty positive. I'm very kind. My mum taught me that, always be kind. And of course that was sometimes challenging too, because it sort of turned me into people pleasing, where I sort of learnt to put other people's feelings in front of mine, and then feel stuck because I didn't know how to express what I wanted, and so that kind of played into feeling like I didn't know how to be happy, or I didn't, what other people had, I didn't think I could have. And then there was the pain of like comparing myself. So I don't know if anyone else has been there, but it's a pretty horrible place to be, because it's like driving around a petrol station and getting a top up from someone, and then that goes, and then your tank goes empty again. It's like, oh, I need to hear that again and again, but it doesn't really, go in, because it wasn't sort of installed in the first place, like self-esteem. So, and so I became, I always found myself going to bookshops and going for books that had self-esteem on them. Always. I couldn't help myself. I'd just go and buy 6 of them at once. I just wanted to just get as much information. What is self-esteem? How do you get it? And because I knew intuitively that I didn't have it. And, and of course, when I met Dave, your dad, in 1970, well, we've been married 44 years now. He just was so in love with me. He just loved me. He just told me he loved me all the time. And, it was really hard to take in, but I loved hearing it. It was like, I used to believe this thing that you can't love anyone until you love yourself. I kind of don't believe that now, because, he helped me love myself when I couldn't love myself. He loved me through not loving myself. And, and that caused that caused a lot of, tension in our marriage, especially for me, because it's very draining to have someone feeling insecure and wanting reassurance all the time. I'm not saying that I voiced that all the time, but it was kind of like the undercurrent of my being. But I didn't want it to be like that. I didn't want it to be like that. So back to the bookshop, buy some more books, get some more knowledge. How can I, what is and I was really interested in healing. And so, this kind of, this put me on a path to wanting to be of service to people. And I've always been interested in having quality relationships, like even as a mum, I always wanted to be a good mum, and there were times when I wasn't a good mum, because if you haven't got a skill, you can't do that skill, if you have
you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. So, well, and it's nice to be able to have this relationship with you, Wes, where I can, apologize for the things that I didn't, if I could rewind the tape, I'd do them again, and stuff like that. So, however, I really think that I'm grateful that I found that I have this thing inside of me, that I know that to stay in my negative place, and like I said, in the little interview that we first had, was my defining moment was when I was going to a women's group for adult children that come from families of, where there's addiction. And I learned a lot, I learned a lot about, in that model, it was about, the first child is the hero, the second child is the scapegoat, the third child is the lost child, which was me and my brother, but I won't speak for him because I don't know if that was his experience. But I certainly felt lost, you know, and it made a lot of sense to me. That kind of framework sort of helped me understand a little bit about myself. And so, and I also, within that group, I had a mentor who I could ring, and she would help me through, you know, this self-doubt, you know, just keep going, because, you know, not believing in myself, it was hard to think that I could change things. But having a mentor, she helped me. And then I got a coach. I've had a coach for like 20 years, and she's really helped me too, like help me just, you know, have somewhere to go where I can feel like I'm, you know, changing the dance and taking myself to higher ground. And you know, she helped me just keep coming back to my page, you know, keep coming back and getting in charge with, you know, getting in tune with what you want, which was very foreign to me because I was brought up to be kind and look after other people. And that's not a bad thing, because I know I have very nurturing instincts, and that's why I loved being a mum. But, you know, the not feeling deserving and not feeling worthy got in the way, you know, again, in my relationship with my husband, because I couldn't receive because I didn't feel deserving, or if I did receive it, you know, it didn't go in. So my mum shipped me off to nursing training when I was about probably about 16. I didn't complete schooling because we moved around a lot, and I also had a few operations that interfered with my schooling. So because mum wanted to be a nurse and her mother wouldn't let her be a nurse because her mother was scared of mum, you know, getting in with the wrong crowd. This is way back, you know. So my elder sister and I both went nursing, and it was a blessing, you know, it was really a blessing that I got trained in that, and I loved it. I loved it. And then I went to Australia and had the experience of, I still worked as a nurse over there, but I also got into barmaiding, which was fun. And all the alcohol. Yeah. And then I started searching for different work. You know, I wanted to sort of work with, help people feel good. And so the thing that I did next was there was a diploma in massage, and the woman that taught me that, Dulcie Black, she was amazing. She believed in me so much. So I must have had a little bit of a lucky charm, you know, to find these people that, like, she believed in me, and she was even going to come to New Zealand and help me start up my massage clinic because I didn't have the confidence, you know. So there's that lack of confidence, you know, that self-doubt that just kept plaguing me and keeping me stuck. I still hadn't done that, you know. but I wanted to stretch into, it was like a glass ceiling. I could see what I wanted to do, but I just kept hitting it. I couldn't get past it because it's like, you're not good enough. You can't do that. You know, and it was there. But anyway, I came home, and I remember actually my dear friend, she's not here anymore, but she had a health clinic centre, and I went down to the health clinic centre and I said, oh, I'd really love to have a room, you know, to be a practitioner. And she said, oh, sure, Tess, I'd love that. And she was the receptionist. It was beautiful. It was at the Weymouth Centre, and it was Linda Flay. And she, incredible, she was so, because she worked in the army, so she had all the, she knew how to do all the appointments and everything. Anyway, I went down there and she said, yes, Tess, you can start, you know, next week. And I went home and I just shook like a leaf, and I rung her up and I said, do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I just didn't believe in myself. I couldn't do it, and I couldn't ring her up fast enough. And I said, I'm sorry, I've changed my mind. I can't do it. And anyway, that took me about a week to get through that shock, you know. So once again, it was that that self-doubt, not in myself, and I really wanted to. And I don't know about you, but when you really want to do something but you just feel like you're not good enough, it's so painful. It's a really painful place to be in. So anyway, I worked through it because, you know, I know there's something inside of me that's quite strong and resourceful and resilient, and I worked through it, and I just felt the fear and did it anyway. and I had a really thriving business, and you probably remember lots of times coming down to pick me up down there with Dad and stuff, you know. So, and then I finally had got a clinic at home, but you know, there was still this part of me that didn't believe that I was successful, and I was. I had a lot of clients, but I couldn't take it in, you know. So then, but I still kept doing it, but you know, and then I wanted to change to doing something where it was more co-creative. So that's when I got into hella work, which is body work. You know, once again, it's working with people, it's working with relationships, like relationships with our body, relationships with gravity. And
what's the background of hella work?
Oh,
just to give us a little bit more in depth so people can understand that.
Okay, well, I'll tell you that in a minute, but first I'll tell you how I wanted to do it. A dear old friend of mine, she said to me, Tess, there's this woman in New Plymouth, and she's leaving tomorrow, and she can tell you by looking at your shoes and your posture what you're all about. Well, that was like, yeah, I want to know what I'm all about, because I don't know who I am. And so I got an appointment with her.
Wow.
Yeah, because her sister's husband had got killed, and so she was leaving to go and help her sister. And so Robin Wynne Lewis, that was her name. And I went over and had a session with her, and I got on the table. And, you know, I used to be a massage therapist, but I never really used to get many massages myself. I got on the table, or she did an assessment of me. Then I got on the table, and she pushed down on my back, and I started crying, and I cried for about 20 minutes. I had no idea, you know, there was all this stuff in my back, you know, holding back, and I just loved all of that. So I came home and I said to Dave, I said, I want to do my hella work training. Like, I really want to do my hella work training.
Oh, so that was a hella work session that you had with this woman.
That was a hella work session, but I'll tell you a little bit more at the moment. But for me, you know, I just resonated with it. I loved the whole idea. So hella work is actually about how we live in gravity. So gravity keeps us on the ground, as everyone knows. And so, you know, gravity comes through the center of the body. And if we're leaning forward, gravity pushes us down. If we're leaning back, it pushes us back. So gravity is about how to sit. So gravity is supporting you, not stressing you. And how to stand and walk. So gravity is supporting you, not stressing you. And I know when you guys were little, I used to go like that to you, up, then up. And so it's working on the fascia of the body. Like massage is kind of like, you know, you're massaging the muscles and you're loosening them up. Well, hella work's more about, it's more intentional, the sheets of fascia which wrap all our muscles. And of course, when we've got, you know, tension, everything gets tight. And an extreme example can be something like this. A farmer who's been on the tractor and he's twisted around like that, if he stands up straight, his body will be twisted because his fascia's got all gluey. Yeah, stuff on chicken legs, all that clear stuff. So, but there was a movement component to it, you know, how you sit and then how you walk, and then there was an attitudinal component to it, which is like, you know, our chest is like our grief and our joy. It's like, oh, look at that little baby, you know, or oh, that's really sad, you know. So our lungs are our grief and our joy. So working on those, we'd talk about, you know, what makes you happy, or, you know, what makes you sad, getting into that kind of dialogue, which was right up my alley. So does that give you a little bit?
How was that applied in the hella work, like in a session when how you were trained to apply the attitudinal healing with the body work and the alignment of the walking and things like that?
Well, when you came in for a hella work series, it was 12 sessions, and with that you got a whole book on session 1, session 2, session 3, session 4, and it told you about all the attitudes that go with that part of your body. And so I think you're asking me, if someone comes in, we fill out a form, and then I'd take photos of their body in front of a plumb bob, to see if they're standing sideways, and then get on the bed, and then we'd talk about the emotions that could be attached to that part of the body, like, where do you experience joy, or what makes you feel sad, or it might just come up. People might start crying, when you release their chest, just like when Robin worked on my back, and it just released all that stuff that I'd been holding back, so the back is like holding back. And sometimes, I don't know, probably, well, as a woman, like sometimes if I'd want to cry, but I'd hold it back and go, yeah, and I mean, all my muscles are going, holding back that tears. I don't want to cry in front of someone, because it's vulnerable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think a lot of men experience that on a lot earlier than women would. A lot of men go to cry, but they can't. It's not as accessible, maybe the right word. But yeah,
it's true.
The same thing happens for men. Yeah,
true. That's right, but it's more acceptable for women to cry. And we are.
Well, I remember one of the retreats that I ran, one of the guys came on, and he kind of was, well, he kind of was there to come and cry, like it was kind of this, that was why he came, but he'd kind of set that intention. He'd been holding on to it for so long, but he'd kind of set that intention for himself, and then that space enabled him to do it. But he'd been holding on to it for a long time.
Wow, that's pretty special that he felt safe, that he could come, and it would be a place where he could let it go.
So you've gone to this hella work, so you went and did the hella work training. And because I know you, I kind of have an idea of where this is leading, but there's some great insights there that I've never heard. And that's as an adult, my friends would say when I was younger, my friends would say, well, what does your mum do? I said, oh, she's a hella work practitioner. And I couldn't really, and then they're like, well, what's that? What the heck's that? And then I said, oh, she just does massage. And I didn't really understand that there was these layers into it of the structure of the body, how it's held together, and then the emotional component. What is this relating to? Like you said, like the lungs and chest holding grief or joy, and how people were holding on to it in their bodies. And also, I wasn't really aware of the attitudinal component, which makes sense to know other parts of your story and progression into modalities of healing, awareness, and self-care and self-love. So we've just covered that. So you did the Hella practitioner training, and what were the benefits? What were the things you really loved about it as being a practitioner delivering that system?
Oh, well, I guess, the first thing, I guess people would get out of pain. They get out and go, wow, I just feel so good. It's the best I've ever felt. And it was like, wow, yeah, that was a great feeling. Pretty much that, really, at end of each session, like everyone feeling really good. It filled me up. I felt really excited and inspired that I could help people, and also understand that, if whatever they're doing, which we found out what they might be doing, it could be sitting at the desk with their toes up, they've got their feet up on their toes all day long. So that's creating a lot of stress. It's just like having your shoulders held up like that, and you don't know that you're doing it. I used to do that with one shoulder, and I never knew. Well, I didn't. It was like I never knew I did that. It was like a blind spot, and I guess it was helping people uncover their blind spots, in a really nice way, that they felt supported, and also understood that they could do things differently, that it wasn't forever, change, that they could do something that could change how they were feeling, and which would bring them peace and joy and confidence, that they could have a body where they didn't have any pain. Because let's face it, having pain is really draining. It's very exhausting. You know, I mean, generally I'm pretty pain free, but when I do have pain in my body, it's like, wow, it really changes how I feel. It's like, oh, I can't do that because it hurts, you know, like and when you don't have that, you have this freedom where you just feel you can do anything. So that was really special, to be able to do that for people, and you know, have socialization with people. Not that they were my friends or I told them my problems, but it just suited my personality to meet different people, and yeah, I loved it.
Nice. So how long were you a Hellawit practitioner
I
for,
about
actively practicing?
20 years.
Nice. And so what was the next modality that you engaged with after the Hellawit? You finished up being a Hellawit practitioner, and what were you drawn to next?
Well, I have to say I lost my mojo for my hella work because I'd done it for so long. Not that I you know, I loved doing it, but I'd lost my mojo. And once again, that self-confidence thing came in, lack of confidence came in, because I started to learn EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, which is tapping. Actually done a law of attraction training, and about probably about I'm just trying to remember the last sort of 5 years of my hella work. I had come across EFT about 20 years before that, and I just didn't like it. I thought it was ridiculous. My friend, who was a hella work practitioner, she said, Tess, you should try EFT, emotional freedom technique, when we were away on a training in Auckland. And I said, oh my God, you never catch me doing that. That just looks ridiculous. And so, yeah, like that. I'm not doing it. Anyway, so when I was thinking about, I want to finish hella work, and I want to do my I want to do something different. And so I did another, well, that was when I did the law of attraction training, and I got interested in tapping again, and there was a module in there, so I got interested in that again. And then one day, and I sort of said to myself, oh my God, how do I do this? How do I change all my clients to EFT? Because I don't want to do hella work anymore. And I just felt stuck, like I couldn't do it. Like I had to give them something where they felt this great experience, where they got rid of pain, you know. And I thought, you know, once again, that confidence thing kind of sort of made me, I felt stuck. And so, but one day, out of the blue, Dave came home and said, oh, we're moving to Australia. And I was like, yes. Like, and I closed down my clinic. I completely closed down my clinic. And because I was interested in EFT, I actually I booked into a training over there. So I had something to go to, because by that time I was really, really excited about EFT again. And so to Melbourne, I went and did my EFT training and become an EFT practitioner, which I love.
So can you please describe us, just unpack that technique a little bit for people out there, because those words, you know it so well, EFT, emotional freedom technique. It's something I use for myself in practice and coach people with, but just unpack that a bit more for us so that people can start to understand what it means and what it means to you and how you apply it.
Well, emotional freedom technique is, if you imagine a straw with some milk in it. You know, when you do that trick, you put a straw in the cup and that keeps the milk in it.
You hold the top of the straw, yeah.
Hold the top of the straw and you pull it out and it's full of milk. And then you lift the finger up and it goes. Well, emotional freedom technique it's like that. It's called, another name for it, they call it as, well, they don't actually call it this, but some people call it emotional acupuncture. So emotional freedom technique works on all the meridians of the body. You know, the liver meridian, the heart meridian, which is energy. It's all energy. It's like the energy that runs through our system. So when you know, when we meet someone, it's like we all kind of get this feeling of a little bit what that person is like, their energy. You know, we might say, oh, did you feel the energy in the room? Or, you know, I didn't like that person's energy. You know, so emotional freedom technique is working with stress and trauma and old negative beliefs that are running around in our energy, right? And what was running around in my energy was that lack of confidence, self-doubt, and so it was in my nervous system, want to get out. So EFT is actually about, it's acknowledging those feelings, and then when we tap on these points, these are the points of the meridian system. Like, they've been there for thousands of years, and there's like two on each side. So when we tap on those spots, it's like letting that milk out of that straw, or it's like letting the old bath water out. We're acknowledging those fears and the stress of holding that energy in our system, because it's kind of like holding a ball underwater. It takes a lot of energy. It's like holding back those tears. If you feel like crying but you want to hold them back, where do they go? So that system, does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I like the one about holding the ball under the water. It's bubbling, it's sort of squiggling around and gets all squirrely. It takes consistent pressure. So you're saying that that's what happens with our bodies when we go through a traumatic or emotional event or a stressful event. If we don't consciously let go or work on letting it out of our system, it's going to be in there.
Yeah, it's going to be in there. And I've done every day I do tapping on myself, and because it's like acknowledging those feelings. It could be like, even though I feel really doubtful and I feel really fearful, like I can't do this interview with Wes, like I've got to say something really intelligent. I deeply, completely love and accept. It's like it's giving those feelings some love. It's giving them the light of day. It's actually acknowledging it, and it's like, even though I'm feeling those feelings, I love and approve of myself anyway, because it feels shameful to have those feelings. So doing EFT, whether you do it with a practitioner or whether you do it with yourself, you're releasing the layers, and I think for me, EFT, I've done a lot of tapping, and I think that's why I've got to where I am today, because I've been able to release and let go a lot of those, old beliefs. They're still there, but they're whispers, they're not shouts. So, and it's like, it would be nice, wouldn't it, to think that, well, I'll just have one session of EFT and then it'll be all finished. I'll be I'll be cured. But it's like a tool. It's like a tool every day. It's like stretching. It's like yoga. It's like breathing. It's like running. It's like weight training. It's like doing it every day. Like your teeth is, for me anyway. It just keeps creating change. It's like planting a seed. For me, doing that tapping and clearing out all that old stuff. It's like planting a seed of new ways of being, letting go that old.
It really is a daily process, isn't it? Implementing all those tools that you've referenced for change.
Yeah, well, I follow the Stone Throwers morning routine. I have done for 18 months. I haven't stopped. Every day I do that.
That was one of my first videos.
I love that. A minute of meditation, it's a minute of breathing, and it's about 2 minutes of tapping, and I've done it every day and I haven't missed it, and I love it. And plus I do more tapping through the day. I just tap. I might be walking down the street because I'm just so used to tapping now. But and I just love it because and sometimes, like, oh my gosh, it hasn't really released it. It feels like it hasn't released it, but it's the way that I look at it. I think, okay, I'm doing it. I'm actually acknowledging it, and it might not go away straight away, but I'm still acknowledging it. I think sometimes for me anyway, it's like the meaning that I make of something that how I want it to go away now. If I do this tapping session, oh, it hasn't gone, doesn't work, then tapping doesn't work. But it does. It's actually having the intention, for me anyway, having the intention of knowing that when I'm doing that I'm creating change. I'm changing the dance. It might not show up in the next 5 minutes. It might not show up in the next 5 hours. It might not show up in the next 5 days. It might not show up in the next 5 months, but it's happening.
Yeah, it's having that belief, isn't it? And it's like, comes back to the analogy you used of holding a ball underwater or holding back those tears, like, and you might want to comment on this as well, the more that we hold something back, the more it takes over us. How does that resonate with you?
Sorry, just repeat that, Wes. I went up.
So you've said, like, with the tapping, you know, sometimes you're tapping, you're thinking, oh, I'm tapping to get rid of this, but it's not working. But it's like if we were to try and resist the feeling, it's a bit like any healing modality, isn't it? We can get obsessed with the answer. We can get obsessed with having the end result, with doing only 5 minutes of work, or wanting to go to one counselling session and be able to be normal or not be depressed. But it's actually, it takes a daily, continual, ongoing delve into it, isn't it?
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. It's like getting, no, I mean, you know, not getting too attached to, like, this has got to work, this has got to go away now. It's actually, I'm doing this. You know, it's like going to the gym. If you go to the gym and you look in the mirror and you think, well, it's not working, I'm going to get up now. You know, I've been going a week and nothing's happened. I'm not doing it anymore. And you know, I remember you reminded me when I did my Hello training, because it was 7 hours drive. It was a big drive from New Plymouth up to Mana Retreat Centre in Manaia, Coromandel. And as you know, the first section was 10 days away. The second section was 2 weeks away. The third section was 9 weeks away. And the fourth section was 2 weeks away. So it was a long time. And every time my colleague Marion and I, she was from Wanganui, she used to pick me up. And every time I drove up that driveway, I noticed that I felt a little bit easier. Like the first time we drove up that driveway, it was a long driveway up to the Mana Retreat Centre. We were so nervous. Like, we were so scared. And we both did tapping then.
Oh, yeah.
Because she did with that, right? And we
she
did tapping.
It to
we
you.
did, yeah. Marion did, yeah. That was like years ago. And every time I went up that driveway, I thought, oh my God, I feel different. I feel different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel different. And it's like, wow. You know, this having tools and skills and using them really works.
Mm.
You know, it really works because it's the intention of, like, I don't want to think like that anymore. I don't want to be ruled by that old malware where I feel, you know, where I feel like I can't bring all my gifts and my talents to the world because I don't feel confident enough, or, you know, just my passion, just being able to help other people where I've helped myself.
Mm. So what would you say to someone if, you know, you say it's important to have these tools and apply these skills? What would you say to someone that's out there that's like, well, I don't have any tools or skills? What does she mean? What does she mean by a tool? You know, what is a skill? Like, if someone's not able to identify that, what would you say to them?
Well, I'll use this metaphor. If you don't brush your hair for 3 weeks, it's pretty naughty.
That's a great metaphor, but often what happens, and from my own personal experience, when I get into emotional turmoil, and it happens a lot less to me now, but in previous times it's been very difficult to bring myself to a state of coherency, to pick up the metaphorical hairbrush, you know, because the hair can get no, you don't brush your hair for 3 weeks, and then you wake up, and then all of a sudden that just becomes your normal, having a big messy bush, so how do we help to guide and shift those people that are not understanding that, because you and I understand that, about applying these tools, and we've, as you've discussed, we've regularly got to remind ourselves to use them, and you're using them every day. So that person that hasn't brushed their hair, if you just get in there and start brushing their hair, that might be really painful for them. So if you go in and cut their hair off, take away all their problems, well, they're going to be traumatized with an identity crisis.
Yeah.
So how do we navigate? What's your thoughts on navigating that difficult space that I'm asking you to answer?
Well, yeah, no, I've got the perfect answer for that, Wes, and it was when I was, I probably would have been about 26, and I was nursing at the time, and I was working in the psychiatric unit, and at that time I was smoking a lot of marijuana. I walked home one night. I got home at 11 o'clock, and there was a bit of a party at our house because we lived in town, and I had this big smoke of dope. It was really strong, and I woke up in the morning, and I didn't know what I was feeling, but I felt claustrophobic. I'd never had it before. I felt really claustrophobic, and then someone was staying with us, and then we got in the car, and I felt agoraphobic. Like, I didn't know these words at the time, but I was scared of the open space. So when I was inside, I was like, get me out of here, get me out of here. And then when I was outside, I was scared of the open space, and I didn't know what was happening to me. So I went to the psychiatrist that I used to work with in the psychiatric unit, and he said, oh, you have anxiety, here's some Ativan. He gave me some Ativan, right? Which was like a tranquilizer, and because I was having, so from that point on, I had anxiety attacks, and of course, every time I started feeling this anxiety, I started fearing having a panic attack, and of course I would then, because I just couldn't stop thinking about it. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to have it, and all this fear would take over, it would just take over me. And I don't know if anyone's ever had a panic attack, but it's horrible. You want to run somewhere. You just want to run somewhere, like this feeling of imminent danger. It's just horrific. It's horrific. So I'd have about 10 panic attacks a day.
Wow.
It was exhausting. And I was still nursing through it. I'd go to work and I could hide it, but it was inside. I was just like having a nervous breakdown, like it felt like, it was awful. And so I had this Ativan, and I became like psychologically reliant on it. And one of my dear friend at the time, Chris, who's passed away now, she even got me this little pill box, which was so pretty. I've still got it, to put my Ativan in, and because she was trying to support me, and but that caused problems in my relationship too, because we'd drive off to a party and I'd go, oh, I haven't got my Ativan, or I can't go to that park, to this big concert, because I'm scared something's going to happen. I felt this imminent danger, and I didn't know at the time that I was in fight and flight. So freeze, run, or flee, fight, or freeze. I didn't that at the time, and I hadn't done my EFT training. I didn't have EFT at the time, and this went on for about 6 years. It was very, very crippling. I didn't travel overseas. My husband worked overseas. I wouldn't travel on a plane. It really limited, my life a lot. But of course, I was too ashamed to tell anyone. Telling everyone now. And so, but this is an answer to your question. And I saw the psychiatrist. He gave me the pills, the Ativan, but he didn't get, well, not blaming him, but I didn't have any skills. I didn't, and so I dealt with it, like tried to deal with it by carrying on anyway. But it had its effects, and it was exhausting. And one day I thought, oh, I can't do this anymore. I don't want this. It's not helping me anyway. It was just actually a psychological crutch. Because when I had it there, I felt like, oh, at least I've got that. but it didn't sort of work. And so one day I just thought, I just lay down on the bed and I thought, what can happen? What could possibly happen? I'm not going to die when I feel this panic. Literally, this is the start of my healing process, really. And I'm just going to start breathing. I didn't even look up any breathing. I just thought, I just need to start relaxing myself because nothing's happened. In this 6 years, nothing's happened except this panic. And it was, it was just that I was turning my nervous system on. I was putting it into flight and fight and freeze by my thinking. I'm scared I'm going to have a panic attack. I'm scared something's going to happen. And I guess it was, kind of a bit like my childhood. Anyway, so that's how I started. I started my healing journey. When you say, what if someone hasn't got the tools? It's like, well, either you can, there's so many tools out there. Like there's so much on YouTube and books and I fortunately, I'm not sure what, motivated me to just lie down on that bed that day and just go, I can change this. I can change this. And and then I started breaking up my Ativan until I just had a little crumb because I didn't like it. It didn't really help me. And I started that breathing and I got off my Ativan and I just, it was really my mindset as well, just saying, it's okay, I'm safe, because I just, being in flight, fight and freeze is exhausting because you're just prepared you're hypervigilant, you're just prepared for danger. And then I wanted to, and of course breathing, I did look up breathing, and it's used for fear of flying, it's used for childbirth, it's used for asthma, it's used for relaxation, it's used for yoga, the breath is kind of everything really. So I did that myself, and I think then I read the book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I sort of realized that I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to go to a big concert and just feel that fear. And it's, but nothing happened. And then I wanted to fly again because I actually was lucky because I used to love flying, but when that happened to me I wouldn't fly anywhere. And so I used to go out to the airport and just like desensitize myself. I'd go out there pretending, not a lot, but pretending that I was going to fly somewhere. And then when I did start flying somewhere, I learned from a fear of flying course, like go out there early, just relax yourself, be there for an hour, just feel relaxed. And gradually I started, training my nervous system that nothing was going to happen. It was literally what I was thinking. I was literally nervous. I didn't understand it now,
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a couple of things I'd love to touch on there, like when the doctor gave you Ativan and nothing else, there's no, in that time and age, and still a little bit, it's getting better now, but, that still often happens. People are medicated without actual mental or psychological or emotional support, not necessarily counselling, but like wraparound things to help people mind, body and soul with whatever they're dealing with, whether it's a mental illness or anxiety or a physical injury. That mindset is so important. So it's just indicative of, the struggles we've gone through. And think about how many people that's happened to over these years that have just been, okay, you've got anxiety, you've got depression, here's some pills. And they're given no advice on changing anything in their life. You had to come to that. And like you say, it wasn't the doctor's fault. He would have been doing best practice at the time, but it's just, and I think there's still large gaps there because it does take a lot of effort and coordination to give someone that encompassing care. And like you say, to a degree, at the end of the day, my belief is of describe that as a rock bottom of getting, fuck, I just can't do this anymore. I'm just actually over feeling like this. Okay, well, what's the worst that can happen?
That's
and
right.
then starting a process. And what I like about that story as well is the intuition, accessing that intuition, because deep down we all know, deep down we all know within us what is a good decision for ourselves and what is a detrimental decision for ourselves. We've got that guidance. It's always there, I believe, and it's just about whether or not we're willing to listen to that truth within us.
That's true. That's true, Wes. And I must say that I was very interested in, I used the medical model, and I was interested in alternative medicine too. And I went to Brenda Penn, like she was a healer, and she helped me too. So, and then I went to another woman
during that time that you were suffering from that intense anxiety.
Well, sort of afterwards, when I started my healing process, and then I found this other woman who, from the women's group, and I went to her, and she said, "Oh, you've got post-traumatic stress disorder."
Okay.
But she said to me, she said, "The key is up here. It's all within you. It's all within you." Just what you're saying, and it's believing that, like I'm all for getting, going to the doctor or going to any kind of healer, but ultimately at the end of the day, I think for me it was like trusting myself that I can do this. Like she said, the key is up there. Trust yourself.
Yeah. So just want to drop in there too, talking about you started your healing process. Well, healing from what? What does that mean?
Well, well, actually, one of the first books I read was called My Mother, Myself, because I wanted to understand relationships, right?
My Mother, Myself, did you say?
My Mother, Myself. That was one of the first books I read, like psychological books, My Mother, Myself, because I wanted to understand. I wanted to understand myself. I wanted to understand relationships. So that was kind of I guess it was the start. And, a lot of people do it. It's like starting to find out information or help understand something, and just going back to the hella work, like session 2 is the legs, and it's understanding. Like understanding is like you're standing on this understanding, and so I knew it wasn't right to have all this self-doubt, to have all this feeling of not worthiness, of feeling confused or unworthy. It was painful. So I wanted to be like those people over there that were laughing and feeling confident, and I just wanted that. It's like I want that.
That's just reminded me of that story you wanted to tell on the promo that we did last week. So take us through that story. You wanted to give us an example of, I guess, perspective on, self-perspective, right?
Yeah. So when you say to me, where did your healing journey start? It started when I started just changing what I was thinking. And that can go back to, when I had all that anxiety, I had to start telling myself that I was safe, that nothing bad was going to happen. So that then, so, and relating to that story that I'm telling you about, when I was working at the psychiatric unit, there was about 2 nurses there that I thought didn't like me, and I pretty much got on with everyone, but it was very important to feel liked, for me, because I didn't like myself. And so, to have that approval from the outside felt very important to me. And that was part of that, low self-worth, not feeling valued anyway. And so I always thought one in particular nurse, I thought she just, well, I thought more that she judged me, that they thought I was too kind, I was too sweet, because I was very kind, very sweet to the people in the psychiatric unit, and they were like more like harsh, and I didn't like it. I was so kind, and I thought that they always judged me more. Actually, that was more to the point. I thought they always judged me, and they didn't like how I looked after people, right? So I had that story inside my head all about them. I was on their paper thinking about what they were thinking about me. Anyway, 20 years later, one of those nurses saw me at the base hospital. I was going to visit someone, and she stopped me in the corridor. It might even been 25 years later. And she said, I just want to tell you, I'm so glad I bumped into you. You are the kindest, most loving person I've ever come across in my entire life. And I loved watching how you looked after the patients in the psychiatric unit. And believe that, like, if that's not, you know, how it's easy to, the stories, you know, the stories that I've told myself that have been, caused me so much needless emotional turmoil.
Yeah, needless emotional turmoil. The more that we can stop treading that water, the sooner the better, really, eh?
Oh my, absolutely got that right. And it just reminds me of this a war movie, actually, and you might have seen it, and I can't remember who was in it, but these prisoners of wars, they were in cages, and just their noses were above the water, you know.
Oh, they were in
That's
cages,
yeah.
did you say?
Their noses were just above the water, like that was the torture, you know. And that's what it felt sometimes, to be suffocated by these old stories. And I just didn't want to live like that anymore. So yeah, probably not pinpointing when my journey began, but it was definitely before, you know, I had children. You know, starting that after, you know, having that anxiety and stopping that, you know.
Yeah, cool. Hey, I've just had a brainwave about the next session, because I'd love to follow this up at some stage with another interview, another episode of Concious Kōrero with you, and I'd love to entitle it Practical Ways to Improve the Relationship with Yourself.
Yeah.
That's what I'd love to talk more about with you on the next episode. I don't know when that's going to be, but that just came to mind as a sort of focal point for the next step. I think that would be really helpful for people out there to unpack, for you to unpack what that means to you in another longer format interview, if you'd be up to that.
That sounds fantastic, Wes.
Yeah, cool. I'm just going to write that down, because I want to write that down so I don't forget it, because I feel like that's a good place to just put a comma in the conversation. A comma in the conversation, because it's, you know, it's just the end of this, coming to the end of this episode, but it's a nice launching pad, I think, to go into another series, because there's so much to unpack on this topic. There's so many facets to it, and the more we talk about it, the more we can help other people, as you've said, to understand themselves and think about how they're viewing their own life, to think about the stories they might be telling themselves.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to write this down, practical ways to improve. I can't remember, I have to rewatch the video to figure, what did I say? Practical ways to improve the relationship with yourself. Because it comes down to that kind of thing excites me and inspires me every day to work with people, to guide them to think about how they're interacting with themselves, their own triggers, their own disbelief, or their own, you know, embracing that confidence. We're all looking to ride that wave of confidence when we walk into a room and we feel at home anywhere.
That's right. And it's like coming into a room, and I read this thing the other day, and you know, the first thing that most people say is, who's here? But when you feel nice about yourself, you say, I'm here.
Yeah, it sounds like a Wes Watson one.
Yeah,
he saved that one, yeah.
okay. Must have
With
been
a
weird.
few MFs on the end of it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much for joining tonight, Mum, and sharing vulnerability, sharing experiences from your life, and talking about the different things that have helped you to progress on your path and your understanding of yourself and how you fit into this world and your many different roles and pursuits.
Oh, thank you, Wes. That's really lovely of you. I'm taking in all the sweet words, and you're a great interviewer, and it's been a pleasure to share parts of my life that you wouldn't, as a son, and sometimes you don't see those parts. You don't. So you've probably learned some things about me too.
Yeah, I definitely learnt some things, and especially some of the more practical details of the different aspects of hella work and how you got into it. I mean, you've probably told me before, but that's why we've got to keep having these conversations, because we always unpack new information for the listener, but also for ourselves. When we give ourselves permission to be like, go live on the internet and start talking about our own lives, we actually learn stuff about ourselves. That's what's so beneficial about it, and to encourage other people to go into spaces. I didn't know that you'd been to a women's circle and had that, just so inspiring to know that one sentence that woman gave you, that one piece of advice, how it stuck with you for so long. And I think we share the same passion. We share the same passion to be able to provide that for other people. That one word, or just that one nuance, the way it was said. I've watched things that I watched things online that have just been like, fuck, just blowing my mind. Just one sentence or the way it's said. So that's really something to strive for, and I think that's why it's important to keep. It's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing thing, and as we mature ourselves, we can then look at old ways of knowing and being and doing with a new understanding of knowing, being and doing, and compare the difference.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Wes. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, go on.
Yeah, that's right. It's like reprogramming the old malware, because the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between the surgeon's knife and the attacker's knife. So why not tell it good things? Why not just turn the volume up on choosing to stretch and say the exact opposite of what you're thinking something negative, say something positive. And like I said before, you don't actually have to believe it or feel it, but you do actually have to say it, because it becomes reality. It does, and that's what I choose to keep following every day for myself.
Nice. Awesome. Well, that's great. We'll leave it there for tonight, and we look forward to the next season. I'm not sure when that's going to be, probably later in the year, in winter or something, when I'm not so busy. But the next one we do will be called Practical Ways to Improve the Relationship with Yourself.
Brilliant. Sounds amazing.
Yeah, we might even, I'm just thinking now, I might even make that a little webinar. I might be able to get a group together for that one, so it's like a 4-person call, and we can have some live discussion going with that, I think.
Sounds good.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much, Mum. Have an awesome evening in Perth, Australia.
Yeah, thank you very much, and you have a great evening in Auckland, New Zealand.
Thank you. Love you, Mum. See you later.
Thank you. Love you.